Perfect. Hey, this is Nate McGuire. We're here with the Top Engineering Cultures podcast with Bubba Smith, CEO of Acquire ROI. Bubba, please introduce yourself. Great to have you.
Yeah, great to be here, Nate. I'm CEO of Acquire ROI. Been that CEO for the long tenure of 3 months. I spent my entire career as an investment banker up to now. Please don't judge me for that. I promise I'm one of the good ones. Just kidding. That's what we all say. But had a really unique lead into this company, working as their investment banker, seeing
Awesome.
the position
Yeah,
that they
so
were
we
in the
were we were
market
just
and the
chatting a bit
opportunities,
before,
and
and
kind of
I'm
taking a really
interested
great
to hear more
foundation and
about
putting it
you
within the
building your
lens of those
team,
potential
kind of the
investors and
product. So maybe
acquirers
tell
down
me
the
a bit
road,
more again
kind of what
about
I do here and how I'm
Acquire
kind of
ROI
setting
and
up what
what
I
you've
see
been
as a
doing as
great
you've been
product and a
getting
great
started,
foundation.
and kind of how the priorities have shifted.
Yeah, absolutely. So the era that came before me was, the helmed by a really great technical leader, long time software engineer, very, very sharp. And, that's the perspective with which he sees the world. And so for the last few years, he has focused very much on the product. A little bit of an if you build it, they will come, something like
And
a
it got them in the first
product-led
place.
sales
Yeah.
strategy. If we make the best product in the market, if it beats the competitors, like that is going to ultimately drive business success. And what it did, and is very important, is it kept customers. Customers were happy with us because their product was constantly improving, got them in the first place, and there was no churn. But what was difficult is that we weren't getting new business, because in just the crowded universe of SaaS, and especially in the HR space, unless you're able to get in those relationships with those people, find their pain points, sell it to them, explain it to them, get them integrated onto it, it doesn't matter how good your product is. And so there won't be a Harvard business case study on this because it's very simple, but we had a large developer force, a very small sales force that also handled account management, a lot of operations. And so we're very limited and stretched. We rebalanced the company. We kind of dropped some of our developer force. We're hiring some great in-person salespeople. And we've chosen to, specifically on the sales side, hire more relationally driven, connected, in person, rather than kind of your quintessential BDR, SDR combo, cold email, sequence, maximizer, marketing hybrid. We've specifically said in the world of
And
enterprise SaaS, we want to
are
go
you
with
planning to
relationship
hire
driven
most of the
people. And
sales
so
team in Dallas
that's what we've
or
done.
in
It's
Fort Worth,
simple. Our
excuse
sales team
me?
has gone from one
Or
to
are you doing
seven over the
remote,
course
or
of
how
the
do you
last
guys
three
think about
months.
approaching
Our
that?
developer team was almost cut in half, but we have some incredible developers because of that foundation that was laid, and we're starting to see some fruit.
Fully remote or like mixed? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the remote question is interesting. So, I inherited a remote
yeah,
company. We already had a semi-distributed, fully remote. There were a couple of folks
yeah.
in the DFW Metroplex, just as a nature of the original founders and some
I think it
relationships
can
and
be
connections
tough,
there.
especially
But we had people in
for
Florida
sales and
and
marketing,
Denver.
and like
And,
maybe if
if
like
I was
us, we're
starting a
fully
company from
remote, but
scratch
we're
today,
all
I,
engineers
I
just
would
building
very much
stuff for other
avoid a
people.
remote
And
business.
so I think
The
that can
limitations you have
work
in
well,
talent
but like
pool is
everything else,
combined to the other
I
opportunities
really
that you
think it's
have.
not the right
But when
answer.
you're inherited, everything's a trade-off. Everything is a case-by-case basis. I mean, I'm such a believer in talent,
Get
and the statement that you
picked
get a
on
broader
by the
talent
older
pool
guys
is a
that are
real
like,
one,
hey,
and especially for
you're not
developers,
pulling your
especially for
slack.
other
Yeah,
businesses. But
yeah,
it's
yeah,
very, very
exactly.
difficult to develop new talent in a remote environment, for the
Yeah,
new and
of
junior
course.
people to come in, to
Yeah.
drink in, to listen in calls, all the things that build out that skill set. We've been here before. This is how this
Yeah.
works. And so we've
And
stuck with
and
the
do you
remote landscape.
and
I
do
had
you
to make the
put
decision
them
of either
like, are
do
you
I
thinking,
do a
hey, we need
full
someone in New
reset
York,
and retake
California,
our
or
hub,
how
or
do you
do I
guys
take
do you
advantage of what
think
we
much
already
about that,
have?
or just going after the
And so as we
best?
built up the sales force, they're remote, and we're taking advantage of it. Like, if we're going to go remote, these better be A plus talent. You
Yeah.
have to have the highest possible. We, for the first seven, it's really just about quality. Do they have the skill set? Do they have the approach? Like, the size of our addressable market is big enough that we don't have to segment into, this is your territory, this is your market. It's a non-sustainable. If we grow, if we triple, quadruple, eventually you'll have to start
Yeah,
thinking,
totally.
oh, hey,
And
maybe
so
you
you were
need to
talking a
focus
bit
on a
about your
region. Maybe you need to
perspective coming
focus
from
on healthcare,
IB to
construction,
like
and trucking.
running
But in
a
the
company.
meantime, for the
And
results
so I
we
would
need to execute over the
assume the
next few
goal
years,
is
like
to,
quality,
get
for
everything
a
really
market
healthy and
size of
potentially
50,000 companies,
explore,
like, you don't need to
some
be
kind of
limiting in that way.
liquidity event. What do you see as like in the current environment, the biggest kind of hurdles and also the biggest opportunities for what y'all are doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the investor mindset. I mean, when I was an investment banker, anytime I talked with a potential client, I really asked a lot of very difficult questions about their long-term goals, not just for their company, but as a person. Because like similar to the product-led strategy that this company had, a lot of businesses have a if you build it, the investor will come, the buyer will come. Just put your head down, put results up, and eventually you're going to show up. And the analogy I use sometimes is like, hey, if you wanted to get into Stanford and you think, okay, I got to get into Stanford, they want good grades, and you don't join sports teams, you don't join organizations, you just study all the time, you get a 4.0, you send your application into Stanford and you get rejected, and they say, hey, you weren't well rounded enough. You need to know if that's your end goal, what's going to be the scorecard, the metrics, everything that they're going to be using to look at you. And so that's the world I know very well. I know what private equity looks for. I know the metrics. I know the way they think about things. And I know that's the ultimate goal for this business, to take on investment and ultimately have a great exit for our shareholders. So all of our
Yeah, I
internal
think
company
when I'm,
KPIs are
because we've worked
directly
with big companies
correlated
to small
to that
companies, one of
scorecard
the
that we're going to
biggest
be
things when you're
evaluated on.
first,
So what's our
maybe you have
NRR?
something
What's our
cool and you
growth
can
rate?
raise a
What's our
Series A or
profitability?
seed or
Where do we
whatever.
sit in that
But then
tech-enabled
it's like,
services,
okay,
SaaS,
if
multiple
you're coming
set?
to me and
So I
I'm
think that
helping you in
perspective is
some
really
way,
important.
like what is the next scorecard that you need to get to? And like, are we doing stuff that gets you there, or are we doing stuff that doesn't really matter and is, a waste of time and money? I think it's important perspective. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Who's the star of the story? If your goal is to sell your business, like, I mean, if you want to hand it off to your kid, you want to be here for 20 years, you're the star of the story. But if you're not doing that, if you're looking for investment, if you're looking for buyers,
Yeah.
what you were
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
solve for is, what are
It's like,
they waking up on a Tuesday
yeah.
looking for? What are they nervous about? What are
What
they
returns
excited
do they
about? Where do
need?
they see
Yeah,
opportunity and
no, and
growth?
especially
And
with
how do you
LPs
craft
and like
yourself
all
to
the
be the
way up,
natural next
like,
step in their
yeah, that's
story?
super
A lot
interesting.
of people look for investment and go, this is my
Yeah,
story,
exactly.
and you're going
It's
to help
like you're
me
not an
get there with your
entrepreneur. You
money,
just
with
have
buying me,
five
whatever.
bosses instead of
It's like,
one.
no, what do they need, and how do you solve
With
their pain point?
AI and like how investors are thinking about the market, do you see, I've talked to a lot of other
Everybody's bold in
executives
his own way.
where, they're not thinking like headcount cuts necessarily, but they are thinking about, hey, instead of
Amen to that.
hiring this agency or hiring this person or bringing in this contract, how can we do more with AI with the same amount of people? Do you think it's translated up to the investor class or like the acquisition class where they're thinking, hey, instead of 100 people, you should have 50 people, and like you should have, instead of 50% profit, you should have 80% profit? Like, do you think it's made it all the way up there yet?
I don't think so. I think, just like everybody, both from CEOs to investors, there's a great deal of anxiety and uncertainty on, are we using AI enough? I think everybody feels that way. Like, is there some tool,
For
is there some
sure. Yeah.
functionality that if I was using it correctly, integrating to my business, would be making massive
Right.
impacts? That if I'm not doing
It's
it
like the
today, what
$100
am I
million
missing out on?
open
And so I do
AI
see that
job
from some
offer or
investors,
whatever,
and some
which I think is
investors, you could
BS.
see some of these deals and these
Yeah,
crazy
it's just like,
valuations. There's a lot of fear.
yeah.
Like, it's not like I see how this tool using AI is going to create this much value for customers and what's the cash flow on that. It doesn't matter how you get there. Yeah, you need return on capital at the end of the day. Even venture capitalists, like, even though they're writing revenue multiples, it's because somewhere in there and eventually the buck will stop. And there's an expectation that an LP gets a certain return on their investment.
Yeah.
And
Depends
so
on
I
what you're
think
building too.
smart
Yeah.
investors and savvy investors are not letting themselves be drawn to, like, oh, having AI, the why is what's important. It's the, can it get there? Using AI to get there faster, greater, whatever.
Competition.
I mean,
Yep.
it just depends on the investor. And same for us, is it depends on what you're building. I mean, the real concern I have with AI is that, product development is accelerated. Smaller teams with less money can
Yep.
build great products, and especially vertical
And
niche
two
products.
people
So if you're
built
a
it,
generalist product that serves several
Yeah.
industries, in 3 to 5 years, you're going to have specialty products in each of those sub verticals that are, hey, we are the, CRM for car washes. We're the CRM for golf studios. We're the CRM for Pilates. And so if you're a Salesforce HubSpot, yeah. And so, how do you survive in a universe where product is commoditized? And if you don't have the team or the expertise to be the best product, what we've decided to do is say, hey, if 3 years, there's going to be an equal quality product to what it's taken us 5 years to build. We can't go, well, that's a bummer, or try to catch up with AI. We need to control
Yeah,
the
the
customer
relationship
relationship.
and
We need
managing it
to
over
have that
time, making sure
distribution
you're
locked
actually paying
in.
attention to
We
what
need
they
to be the difference,
need.
because
Like
you'll
that's all.
discover
I think
whether you
that's
build it with
always
software or
been
AI,
business
you just have a
101
great
though.
product. That's nothing. It's
And
a
most people
running against
suck
a
at it.
wall.
So
Finding the customer is the
yeah,
unique differentiator in an AI
yeah.
world.
True, true.
It's full circle. That was what business was
You're gonna
for hundreds of years.
Yep,
Then,
yep.
even as this last 2 decades, we've had all these anomalies of direct to consumer internet businesses. even sales went from something that was relationship driven, selling things 10 years ago, to if you could send 50,000 emails at a 2% reply rate, that's a business and that's amazing and whatever. And so we lost these sales skills and we moved to
Are
volume.
you on the whiteboard, like,
Everybody's seeing
always
that
be
as outbound
closing
becomes
and,
saturated, as people come, you're fighting Microsoft and Google for those inbounds and people are pushing it off. Oh, shoot, what do we get back to if we're not getting results on this? Oh, we have to understand
and
our customer.
are
We have to build
you doing a
relationships
lot
with
of the
them.
sales
We need
still,
them to
or
call
and,
us
like,
to ask
people
them.
feeding up to you, or have you kind of, like, handed that off and you're
So it's
masterminding from
you're
behind?
looking for those sales talents and playbooks that existed 20 years ago, existed 10 years ago, because they're going to continue to work now. Yeah. I mean, I think sales for us specifically, because we have such a strong product foundation, such a proven kind of executional outfit, sales is the needle that we need to move. Sales is where we need to press. Sales is where we need to invest. That is what has been missing, and that's what needs to be brought. And so naturally, the large majority of my time is spent either selling or working on our sales team. And then I have to make those decisions. Where's our budget? What do our investors believe? I could spend as an individual X amount of hours selling, trying to get prospects. But what's going to, teach a man to
Probably better.
fish, hiring a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
salesman, getting them developed, and how do
Totally,
you kind of
totally.
walk that line and make sure
What
you're
are you most
investing in the
excited
right
about? What are you
places? And
most
so
worried about?
I do
So only
sell.
4
I try
months
to
in, what
inbound
does the
leads,
rest of
but
the
if I
season
could
look like?
spend an extra hour calling 5 references to get a salesperson that's 10% better, that's gonna be better than me spending hours selling myself. Yeah. I think from a worry perspective, in any universe, when you are attached to a larger enterprise, a great deal of your business, like we are very in the talent recruitment environment, job advertising, Indeed is the 500-pound gorilla, especially for the blue collar, high volume space. And so, in a lot of ways, we're very beholden to policy changes that they make, how they execute things. And so, we could pull all the right levers, we can do all the right work, we can balance the right team, we can hire the right people. But if someone in a boardroom in Austin and Indeed makes a decision totally unrelated and without us in mind, they can radically affect our business, and
Yes.
they do so. And
Yeah, and it's
so,
similar to,
how
like,
do
building
we get
off,
into a
a
position of
business off an
comfort and
API that
mitigate
might
and hedge the
change.
risk that we can, and also just you have to rely
Exactly.
sometimes on that there's the right factors driving them to make those decisions are still going to be there, and be honest with yourself if they're not. I've seen many get Facebook API back when the developer base, a lot of companies got shut down. Uh, so, I mean, we're an intermediary. Like our job is that we take, hey, you're a company, you don't want one single point of failure, you don't want to be beholden to one publisher. Like, let us sit in the middle, let us help distribute jobs to all the publishers, to social media, so that you have kind of different levers to pull ROI from it. Even though Indeed has a monopoly, everything Indeed does to make it harder on customers
Well,
ultimately
this has been
increases the
great. I know
value
we're
of
a
the
little bit over
intermediary,
time. Is
increases
there
the
anything
value of
else you wanted
redundancy.
to
So
share?
we it hurts in the near term because that's, one of our bigger volume plays, but in the long-term macro of being an intermediary, that way you're not, beholden to any one enterprise. So that helps us out. I mean, it's a fascinating time to run a business. And I think, the way we think about it every day
Yeah.
is that, in a world of commoditized tech, in a world of AI,
Cut
it's
code
the
knives,
customer
baby.
relationship that
Yeah.
matters. And so, how can you create customer relationships? If you were a B minus door to door salesman 10 years ago, you're going to be best in class. Handwritten notes, being in person, remembering their kids' names, remembering their kids' birthdays, sending them little gifts. It's, you look at your marketing efforts of the next 6 months and
Dads
it doesn't
or
involve
yeah.
handwritten
Yeah.
notes and little gifts like a $60 bottle of tequila or a nice almond butters, like a friend of mine does that, is worth a lot more than spending 10,000 on, a
That's
podcast
a good
thing
point. We
or
used to
a
do
email
custom
campaign
chocolates and send
marketing.
them out to people,
You
but
wanna
then
build
COVID hit,
trust
so
with
maybe now
someone
it's
and
time
send them a
to dust
$200
off
espresso
the
tool because you know they love
outbound mailing
espresso, like
of
that, those are
the
the
good stuff.
differentiators,
Yeah.
and that's what, kind of our service side of our business built on a great foundation of tech is about.
Woo. Yeah.
Man, it's a game changer. I have a dear friend named Matt Gore who runs a pitch tech business called Optio, and they're the best in the world. And they charge $25,000 for a pitch deck because they can make that much of a difference. And he used to, when people would refer him business, he'd pay him somewhere 3, 5 grand and say like, "Hey, thank you for helping
People
me bring
talked
this
about
in.
it.
We're
They
going to
probably
create this
loved it.
value."
Yeah.
And he got some referrals from it.
Yep.
People referred just because he
Yep.
was the best. Like that large amount of money
Yeah.
didn't really move the needle. Instead, he started sending people like this custom box
Yep.
of all these fun nut butters, almond, pistachio, chocolate, hazelnut, and they
Because
would
we're
send it.
still
They would
humans. We're
get it,
not
and their wife would be
AIs.
like,
Yeah.
"Who sent you
Yeah.
this? This is awesome!" Like send him more business, and you get. He buys people, like just. It's about
KO
knowing them.
pop.
It's about being
Yeah.
seen. It's about like, "Hey, I
Interesting.
understand. I know it matters to you. Espresso, rock
Awesome.
climbing,
Well, thanks,
whatever."
Bubba. This has been great.
And it just so happens that it tends to have a more powerful psychological effect to continue referrals than a $3,000, $5,000 check. It's all about the consumer psychology. This has been great, Nate. Great to meet you. See you.